Startuprad.io, your podcast and YouTube blog covering the German startup scene with news, interviews, and live events.
Hello and welcome everybody. This is Jörn from Startuprad.io, your startup podcast, YouTube blog and internet radio station from Germany, Austria and Switzerland. Today I would like to welcome Imre from Vienna here with me. Before we begin, could you briefly introduce yourself and your background in psychology, burnout prevention and leadership coaching?
It will be my pleasure, Joe, and happy to see you again. I have so many things I could tell, so I'll make it rather short and quick and simple. I am a psychotherapist and teacher of psychotherapists. And before that, I was an opera singer. And I decided to become a psychotherapist because I was standing on stage one night as Othello, and I had just arrived from a very, very successful campaign beating the Osmanic Armada. And yet I knew in 2 hours I will have killed my loving wife and will be about to kill myself. And there's nothing I could change about it because Verdi and Boito had decided that way. And I wanted to be able to make a difference and to have some influence. And therefore, I changed from portraying human catastrophes to preventing them by psychotherapy or by coaching or by preventing burnout and other terrible things that happen to people.
I will kill my lovely wife and then everything.
Kill myself.
Kill yourself, exactly. By the way, I'm a big fan of Puccini. Did you ever play Puccini?
Well, I sang parts of Tosca, not the whole opera, unfortunately. And I also was cast for Il Tabarro.
Very good, very good.
Yes.
Love Tosca, even though it's a little bit dramatic. Talking about dramatic here, that is actually a pretty good shift here. We are here today because I invited you as a guest. We get something like almost 20 pitches some days, and there what caught my eye was avoiding and detecting burnout in your team. And I thought that would be something I could invite you over talking about. That would be of great use to our audience. That's why we're talking today about understanding burnout in teams, not only in you directly, but also if you're a founder in your leadership team. Can you give us a few early indicators of burnouts? What are warning signs, and how can leaders differentiate between like temporary, yeah, it's been a busy time, or chronic burnout risks?
Well, burnout, first of all, happens to those who seem to be most unlikely to suffer burnout because they are the strongest people we have in our teams. But they are also usually the people who do most of the work and put in the biggest effort. And so they don't notice the limit when they come from enjoying their work and doing good work to being driven by their work, even to the point where work becomes the only topic in their life. No private life anymore, no hobbies anymore, only work 7 days a week. And that's a first starting point when work becomes toxic, in the sense that this person is already starting on the road to burning out. Now, we do have a little controversy or ambiguity in this field of burnout, because the process of burnout, and the result, the last stop, have both the same name. And since we can arrive at this final state also on 4 different ways, I prefer to call it voidness. emptiness. You are void of every other interesting thing in your life than work. So you can also arrive there by bore out. You can also arrive there by dripping out and by draining out and by being burned off. But we are talking today only about this part where you arrive in voidness by burning out.
Mm-hmm. When we've been talking about this up front, I was wondering to my audience if they have ever noticed any increasing sick days, error in really routine tasks or defensiveness in their teams. Let us know in the comments, what was your first sign that something was wrong in your team? You already said there are different ways of burnout that eventually arrive at the point where you cannot work anymore. And where, of course, also you lose the joy in what you're doing, which is pretty bad. Can you tell us a little bit what role leadership has in preventing a burnout?
Well, first of all, leadership has to be very attentive to the possibility of burnout arriving in their group. As a leader, you must notice that we have been working on our limits now for a longer time. It's okay to go over your limits for a short period, let's say 1 or 2 weeks. But when a group is working way past its limits for several months. For example, you don't have enough people on your workforce. You don't have enough qualification for the jobs that need to be done. You don't have enough people who can care for the other people. Then you will start to see that there are people going into sick leave, not because they are actually sick physically, but they just cannot bear it anymore. And they are usually the best, not the worst. Then you will notice a rise in the overtime, whether it is paid or not paid. But you will see that you drive out of your garage at your work plant, and there are some windows which are still lit because people are still working there, somehow to fill their deadlines, somehow to do their actual jobs, and still because they think that their job is very important. And then they come to the next step where they think, if I don't put in the extra effort, then the whole company is going down the drains. And this is overestimating one's necessity, one's being needed by the company. And once you're past that, you are really into the funnel which sucks you into this burning out process where you finally land at being completely void of any possibilities, of any power, any strength, any interests, and just simply giving up. And this may be deadly. And now imagine you have, let's say, you have in a group a workforce of 10. Now, one of them falls out because of burnout, which means that usually the work of 10 has to be done by 9, which of course puts an extra strain on all the 9. Then the 9 again, one of them gets a burnout, so all of a sudden the same workload is distributed to 8 people. And I don't know how you can imagine to go down to finally having one person doing the job of 10. It's impossible. So you have to take measures very early and be very attentive. The easiest way, of course, to find out whether people on your workforce are in danger is to sit down with them when they come back from vacation, if they have taken any, And I asked them, well, how was your vacation? Tell me about your vacation. Oh, I was always thinking about the work and all the things we have to do, and I have a new idea how we could do this or that. That person is in danger of burning out. If one of your employees hasn't taken a vacation for a year, that's a very, very bad sign. This person has to be sent to take a vacation and has to be taken care of.
You've been talking about from a personal and individual perspective. I would now like to take a perspective, for example, from a C-level executive down to your managing level. Are there certain leadership styles that influence the burnout rate in their teams? Of course, they'll have some type of sick percentage reporting, some type of color indicator, but as you've already shown, when you go from a team of 9, you go from a team of 10, you go down to 9, you go down to 7. That should really, really raise a lot of red flags. Could you talk about the leadership style here?
Oh, well, definitely. You see, any leadership style that does not listen very carefully to the sound of their employees is prone to produce burnout and voidness at the end. Also, leaders who think that, oh, I have so much work and I don't see why my employees shouldn't have as much work as well, are also dangerous leaders in the end. And third, I think that any leadership style that goes by numbers, just looking at the numbers is way, way too far away from the employees. I think leading people is a person's job. You have to have the personality of the leader, and this is not something you learn in any management school, but this is an attitude you have to learn through personality development, maybe even personal training, but that is not what you learn when you follow courses of accounting and of all these numbers-based leadership styles. I'm also quite aware that right now there is a so-called Leadership 5.0, which is basing itself on artificial intelligence. Sorry, a person does not want to talk with another with artificial intelligence. You don't want to go on a date with some artificial intelligence. You don't want to have your boss as artificial intelligence. You need a person because you work, and that is something you have to keep in mind. You work with and for people. And latest research by Deloitte has shown that people, about 75% of our workforce come to us because of the company's name, reputation, or because it's a very interesting job, or whatever benefits there are. But 65 to 70% of these people are leaving because of their direct superior, because they have not gotten enough attention, they have not gotten enough mental, emotional rewards. And then there are again 30% who say the workplace atmosphere was so horrible, no fun, no puns, no nothing, just work, 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 work. And they left for that. But when you ask them whose responsibility it is to have a good atmosphere at the workplace, they say it's the boss's responsibility. So add the 60 and then the 30, you arrive at 90% of those who leave us that are leaving us because of their direct superiors.
I was wondering, when you've been saying about the managing by numbers, there are a lot of entrepreneurs, leaders who have organizations big enough that they necessarily cannot talk to all the employees, also thinking about international branches and so on and so forth. How would you recommend they try to avoid the burnouts in their teams without only looking at the numbers? Is it like regular visits, regular exchanges with leadership team there on site?
Well, that's a very good idea to start with, but of course, that's usually not enough. I think that basically our employees of today want to be respected as human beings, and they want to have a little say about what's happening in the company. So we at leovin.com have developed a special tool for companies to get very good feedback from their employees, but not in the usual form, which is you as the employee fill out something and your boss gets it. In our concept, in our project, uh, employees are invited to fill out just 48 questions and grade them from 1 to 9 and send them directly to our company. And we guarantee 100% thank you very
Confidentiality.
much.
Yeah,
Yes.
sure.
So, and then from that, we calculate, this is numbers again, yes, but it's an average. We calculate how much the whole workforce is in danger, and we also provide the employer with a possibility to see which fields of improvement would yield the best results. In addition to that, since all the questionnaires are coded, employees get a first feedback which says, oh, congratulations, you have a very healthy workplace, to, well, some improvement might be necessary, to the point of there is urgent need of action, where they can, provided the company agrees to that, come to our coaches for advice. They just deliver a voucher that they have got from their company, but the voucher does not say to whom it belongs. So, and that voucher again is our means for laying out the fees for the company. So it is a very, very safe way of employees and employers getting good feedback. Good feedback means it's useful feedback. You can do something with it. And therefore, we have been very successful with this. But since we are very much based on confidentiality, we also do not use our customers for our own advertising, which is something that might make it difficult in this today's field of attractivity, where everybody is boasting with 500 acknowledgements and feedbacks. We don't do that. We invite the company. First, usually it will be the HR responsible, or it's the CEO himself, herself, to have a first personal meeting. Then we are very willing to come to the company and give a speech, a presentation on burnout and its dangers and its effects. and present our model of the project. And then even after that, there might be a vote among the employees, or on the other hand, on the management level, yes, let's do it, or yes, we would like to have this. It's all about trust and cooperation. You cannot force anybody to be truthful because I say, please be truthful. No, please, just be truthful. No, sorry, that doesn't work. That's what is called management style X by McCullough, as opposed to Y, which is more lenient leadership.
You are already quite ahead of me. What I want to ask you. Let me take one step back before we get into practical strategies for burnout prevention. We already know you recommend involving a third party, involving questionnaires. But before we get into that, can a company do something in terms of workplace culture, avoiding burnout risk? How can they contribute to ingrain in the culture pieces that would avoid burnout, that would minimize, not completely avoid, but minimize the burnout risk? What would that be?
There are certain measures, but it makes a difference whether you just try something because you have heard that it worked somewhere, as opposed to, I come back to what I just said, having a precise and clear-cut feedback that says, most likely, for example, improving the feedback culture, or dealing better with so-called mistakes. So I don't call it a mistake culture, I call it a development culture or a learning culture. And then, of course, some people think that they are in the wrong place. Now, if 30% of your employees think I'm in the wrong place, then definitely re-evaluating who is doing what is a very recommendable approach. While if everybody thinks they're on the right place and you evaluate again, that doesn't make any impact whatsoever. It reminds me of an experiment that was done about 100 years ago. A big factory hall where women were assembling light bulbs. And in came a group of researchers and with their pads and everything, and they talked to the ladies, and then they gave the recommendation, let us increase the power of the lighting by 20%. They did it, and the output rose by 20%. Now they said, well, why don't we raise it for another 10%? It was even brighter and lighter by 10%, and the output was 10% higher. And then they said, well, this cannot be true, that the output is a direct, relevant coefficient of lighting. So let us reduce the light by 10% again. And they did it, and the output rose by 10%. And so they really got into researching this, and finally they found out the output was not a result of the lighting, it was a result of being asked about their situation, having somebody caring for them. And so in that case, they learned you have to care for your employees. You have to involve them in what's happening. You have to raise their self-esteem. But many other possibilities are there too. So I am still an advocate of either asking the employees directly, which might yield unwanted results, like pay me more, let me work less, as opposed to the truly relevant factors, which might be like having more freedom of action or having the information I need at the time I need it and in the full amount I need it, those kinds of things. So then improving the information flow might prevent burnout.
Mhm. Mhm. I see. So if you ingrain this caring about your employees in the company culture, that will be already a pretty good indicator that you try at least to minimize the risk, even though we all know, unfortunately, this is not necessarily always 100% secure. Let us get to a little ad break, and when we're back, we talk a little bit about addressing work overload phases and proactive leadership involvement and psychological safety. Hey guys, thank you for sticking around. We are back with Imre talking about potential burnout, early detection of potential burnouts in your teams and the roles of leadership. We have just talked about how we can find and address these burnouts and what data-driven approach with feedback culture you are recommending. And we also talked about how to include this potentially in your company culture. Now I would like to talk a little bit about addressing the overload and regeneration phases. How should companies define healthy work rest cycle for employees? For example, was once talking to an entrepreneur, and he insisted that his people take at least 1 week off per quarter.
Oh, I agree with that gentleman 100%. And I think I said it before that if a person has not taken leave at all for a whole year, that is definitely a warning sign that burnout might be already way on its way. I think there is a big misunderstanding in general. We have this expression work-life balance. And we think that on the one hand there is work, on the other hand there is life, and they should be in balance. In my perception, this is a big mistake. It's called work-life balance. That means in your work life, while you are at work, there must be a balance between sort of stop and go, taking a rest and then getting to work again. You need these moments of resting, of getting your resilience going at your workplace, not wait until you are at home. And that is something that good workplaces provide. Be it, I know of an organization here in Vienna where they offered half an hour of sports after lunch. So just gymnastics or throwing the ball or frisbee around or whatever was possible due to the weather. But of course, it was not just to the people, okay, you can go out into the park now, but we have an animateur who is with you in the park and who will play all kinds of relaxing at the same time mind-opening games with you.
Mm-hmm. actually that really plays into what I've been learning about myself when I started Startuprad.io, and I still do this. I work quite a lot, so working until midnight is not uncommon, once or twice a week. But I realized I get a much better balance if I do spend in the meantime more time with my family. Plus, what I tend to do, like the old people do, I get out for a walk at least 30 minutes a day, and that helped me really very much. We try to also communicate some German culture here. What we say for unwinding here in Germany is let your soul dangle, give it some time, relax it. That was what I had in mind when you were talking about that.
Well, actually, this letting your soul dangle is a quote from Johann Wolfgang Goethe, where he already said, just lie in the meadow and let your soul dangle, and you will find the most fantastic and amusing or even clarifying ideas. And basically, you have to get out of thinking on always of your work in order to have better ideas for your work. So we know that you can get the output you want in the quantity and in the timeliness you want by being strict. But if you let your people work as they think it's right for them, you will, in addition, get the quality, get the innovation, and also get the persistence. So it will not be broken in 2 days, but it will stay working for maybe decades. All that is part of why leadership should take care of these threats of burnout also from an economic point of view. It's not just because we're so nice. It's not just because we like humans. Excuse me, we trap ourselves into this type of thinking. It is very, very economic because it's not the weakest in performance who go to burnout, but the best, those who really carry your whole success. And therefore, I think it's like taking summer tires in a winter snowstorm, not to look after your employees' well-being in that sense, not to make sure that they can and want to stick around.
Mm-hmm. I was wondering when you talk about not only from the goodness of your heart, but what actually should drive your curiousness for human beings and should be already something you want to do. But also there is, of course, a financial rule to this, because it takes quite a long time for an employee to recover from burnout. I had this here around in Germany, and you can be sick up to 18 months, and then you have a phase of up to half a year of reintegration. Can you share your experiences with that?
Yes, this is exactly the number I have too. And I know that it is a big, big loss for the company, because what do? You have no guarantee that, number one, this person will come back at all. You don't know the exact time, how long it will take that person to recover. So you cannot say, okay, I hire somebody else for 6 months and then the other person will be back. So you have absolutely nothing to go by. And therefore, maybe the idea is, now I have been giving this person definitely too much work. Let's assume he will be back in 1.5 or 2 years. then this person will still have a need of a certain time to reintegrate. And for those 2 years, it's definitely feasible and sensible to get somebody else. And then when this person comes back, then we sit together and redistribute the workload. So it's always about not having enough people and replacing a person who is on sick leave is definitely a better investment than just to have the others burn out while waiting for him or her to come back.
I was wondering for our audience, what strategies have worked for you in reducing burnout in your team in the past? Have you implemented any specific policies or initiatives that have made a difference? Drop your thoughts in the comments here.
Okay, first of all, what worked very well was to clearly define the number of people I am leading. And that number should not be more than 7. If I have more people, because I'm building up the company, for example, that would mean that I already have to work in some sort of divisions system. So generally, going from the top to the bottom, it's groups of 7s, maximum 10s. And that means that these are your direct reports. You don't have more than 10, let's say, direct reports, and you have to have enough time to lead these direct reports consequently with all aspects involved. That is to say, with talking to them at least once a year, this famous once a year evaluation in German called Jahresgespräch, where I have seen so many companies who have realized, yes, bosses need to talk to their employees. And then when they introduced it, some of the supervisors said, why do I have to talk to them? Well, they know everything anyway. And others came and said, may I only talk to them once? I like to talk to them several times. But this is one basic conversation that only has 3 topics. Number 1, what did we do well in our cooperation? You and I. Not the company, not the others. You and I. Secondly, what are we going to improve concerning our cooperation in the coming year? And then we're talking about wishes, we're talking about needs, we are not talking about complaints, because the complaints have to be turned into future actions. And then the third topic is where should, respectively, would the employee like to develop? And that's all, not about pay, not about any other things, only these 3 topics, and take 1.5 to 2 hours for these 3 topics, and you have done all you can do to plant the seed of trust between your employee and yourself. And then you will get honest and valuable feedback from your employee when he will tell you in time, listen, boss, this is getting too much for me. I need some other arrangement. We have to talk about finding different ways of doing my work, or is there something I could let go of? And which is the hardest thing for every employee, to get to let go of something, because the more jobs and the more choice you have, you feel the more needed and important. Not just to say powerful, but important.
We are a podcast also focused on tech entrepreneurship, talking a little bit about future trends in burnout and burnout prevention here. Do you see any potential with the rise of AI-driven workplace analytic that technology can be used to monitor and mitigate burnout risk?
Well, I'm not a great friend of AI, but I'm also not a terrible enemy of it. I think that it needs to be used in a very human way, which is to say, what can be done by AI and not so well done by a human should be done by AI. And that is to have one or two monitoring systems, but never replacing the interaction between superiors and employees, but rather assisting also the employees. So that the employee can see, oh, wait a minute, I haven't had a week of leave for the past 12 months. I need to take one now. And then AI maybe shows a red flag right there to the employee rather than to the boss, where many employees think they are being controlled by some machine or so. I think you may remember this big scandal in Germany where a company had name tags for everybody, but the name tag was at the same time a monitor that was registering every time you passed certain doors. And so usually the company knew earlier than the female employee that she was pregnant because she was going to the loo more often. And so they had an increase in the frequency of her visits to the restroom, which told them, oh, maybe she's pregnant. I think we have to get rid of her before she goes on pregnancy leave. So examples like these stick, unfortunately, in the minds of our coworkers and give them a sort of fear. What if the machines control me even more? So AI is seen usually as a means of being controlled and being manipulated, while put at the person's use and control, it may seem very helpful to say, listen, you haven't had your leave now for such a long time. Hey, you have gained 10 pounds in the last 5 months. The seats can be easy measures of weight. They almost look like scales anyway, if you sit in them. At least mine does. So very comfortable, and at the same time, it should tell me, oh, you gained again, or I lost weight, I mean. So yes, AI can be helpful if it is used openly and to the advantage of the employee, and where the employee can understand the meaningfulness of this measure. If not, then you will get very controversial results. Like, imagine, Joe, I am your boss. And I come to you and I'm very open and honest and say, Joe, I would like to motivate you. Oh, now tell me what's going through your mind.
I would at first assume that he thinks right now that I'm not motivated enough, right?
Yes, and now how do I know that you're not motivated enough? Some machine or some super surveillance must have told me,
Mm-hmm.
right? Secondly, you will ask, okay, let me see, how are you going to motivate me? There's no way. So, and unfortunately, in every business school, the second or third item on their schedule is learn how to motivate your employees. It's not your job. But the point is, any effort at motivating people is already a step in the inverse direction. So the same thing goes for I want to look for your health. You're not my mother. I mean, I can look for my health myself. But if I say, listen, I have seen that your sick leaves are getting more and more, and I'm worried about your health. And let's see what we can do together to improve your health situation. That's something different because also you must keep in mind that many employees are afraid of losing their jobs if they take too much sick leave. And that would be exactly the sign for everybody. Wait a minute, health it is in jeopardy. And then in order to avoid that, they work overtimes and more overtimes, and that's straight into the funnel of burning out and into failing.
Mm-hmm. I see. How do you see the prevention of burnout and other problems at work? Because burnout is just the one we're focusing on here, evolving in the next 5 years.
Well, I'm a bit ambiguous in my view. On the one hand, there are more and more leaders learning that they can have the best company and the best technology, but if the workforce is constantly ill, they will not be making any profits. That's why I think you see it too, all these offers of generating income without doing anything. This famous automatic and automatized income. I think it is stupid because if everybody does that, who is going to do the work? So we are going down the wrong alley there. And on the other hand, all the efforts to reduce human work to less and less mean that we need people who are higher and higher qualified. Now, the higher the people are qualified, the more it is a risk for a corporation that they burn out. Because nobody can just come from the street and step in, as opposed to this famous movie with Charlie Chaplin, where they just grab a guy from the street to do the strews. Nobody can come in and do very complex and complicated work. Just, I haven't done it before, but I've been a gardener, so I'm sure I'm good at cutting hair. It will not work.
We are already talking and learning for more than 50 minutes here. And I was wondering for your final thoughts, a call to action for leaders. If you could give one piece of advice to startup founders and executives about preventing burnout in their teams, what would it be?
It would definitely be to become a real leader, which is to say, forget about the numbers and work on your own personality. make sure that you do not burn out by doing the wrong things and spending your energy there. A manager is a person who makes sure that things are done right. A leader is a person who makes sure that the right things are done. So become more aware of your real role as a leader. And that implicates that you have to have good health, that you have to have enough time to reflect and think about your company, where nobody disturbs you, where you can talk to maybe a coach, maybe several coaches about how to proceed and where to proceed.
Great. Thank you, Imre, for sharing insights on burnout recognition and prevention. We appreciate your expertise in helping companies build healthier and more resilient teams. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joe. And we supply this service to leaders and business owners at leovin.com, where they are free of any influence by employees or co-workers or competition or any other people who mean just the best.
Thank you very much. We link down in the show notes.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
That's all, folks. Find more news, streams, events, and interviews at www.startuprad.io. Remember, sharing is caring.